The silence is broken. The blackout is partial, but the ground teams take manual control. When the drone's own eyes are being hacked by the very Tehran at night, a city of millions, unaware that a silent, invisible war is already unfolding above their heads.
The pulse of the city seems normal, but beneath the surface of this concrete giant, the first signals are shifting.
A flicker in the grid, a micro-glitch, small anomalies that signal the start of a massive electronic intrusion.
Not every ghost escapes. The first casualty of the physical front falls from the Tehran sky. Evacuation.
Seconds count. In the peak of chaos, a single decision determines the fate of the nation's entire network.
An electromagnetic storm of our own making. The air is too thick with interference for even the most advanced systems. Entry into the forbidden zone. Here, the electronic pulse is strongest, vibrating through the very walls of the command center. Then, the pulse hits. A global ripple that marks the transition from surveillance to active digital combat. The silence is broken. Radar rooms ignite with activity as the first breach of the Shadow Front is official. Deep within the mountains, the hidden architecture of the Shadow Front awakens, light by light, layer by layer. The battlefield is no longer just land and sea. It is a digital projection of every power line, server, and signal. Encrypted streams pour in like a flood. Terabytes of stolen intelligence are decoded in the blink of an eye. Nothing is hidden from the eye in the sky. Real-time satellite feeds track every movement, every shift in the shadow. Physical security mirrors digital defense. Ground teams mobilize to protect the core of the nation's invisible shield. In the belly of the facility, the swarm prepares. Silent, lethal, and ready to breach the sovereign skies of the adversary. Artificial intelligence takes the helm. The drone's sensors synchronize, linking back to the central hub in a web of control. The final protocols are entered. The war of bits and bytes reaches its point of no return as the launch codes are verified. But the enemy is already here. An unidentified signal begins to eat through the firewalls of the Shadow Front.
Behind the headlines and the official statements, a much darker game is being played for total regional dominance. I am here to take you inside the Silent War over Tehran, a conflict fought in the shadows of the digital realm.
This is the front line. No bullets, no smoke, only the cold, hard logic of electronic supremacy.
From the data centers of Tel Aviv to the bunkers of Tehran, the map of the Middle East is being rewritten. What started as a series of isolated cyber attacks has evolved into a multi-domain struggle for the very soul of the city. Every move is watched. Every signal is intercepted. The infrastructure of an entire nation is now a digital target.
The distance between these two powers has vanished, replaced by the instantaneous speed of a fiber optic strike. Even this information is part of the battle. Truth is the first casualty when the network itself becomes the enemy.
What you see is not the full battlefield. The real war is happening in the silence between the signals.
It begins with a burst, a massive surge of data that overwhelms the regional monitoring stations in seconds. In the West, the response is immediate. Israeli sensors lock onto the anomaly, mirroring the activation of Tehran's own defenses. The network ignites. Every server, every node becomes a potential entry point for the Shadow Vanguard. The first breach is attempted. Millions of password combinations are tested per second in a relentless digital assault.
The defenses buckle. For the first time, the core security layers of the Tehran network are compromised.
Under the cover of darkness, the physical drones launch. They are the kinetic arm of the digital offensive. They move like a ghost fleet, adjusting their flight paths in real time to avoid the reaching fingers of radar. Electronic countermeasures activate. The air is filled with invisible noise, designed to blind the enemy's tracking systems. The fog of war descends. Jamming signals spread like a virus, cutting off communications and sowing local confusion. Panic begins to set in. The source of the attack remains hidden, a phantom operating from within the shadow front. The hardware begins to fail. The sheer volume of the cyber assault is melting the very processors meant to defend it. The war spills into the streets. Power grids fluctuate as the digital conflict drains the city's lifeblood. Navigation becomes impossible. GPS spoofing creates a world where the map no longer matches the terrain. In the air, the danger is absolute. Pilots find themselves flying blind as their navigation systems are held hostage.
Analysts finally isolate the source. But what they find is not a single location, but a distributed network of ghosts.
The counteroffensive begins. Tehran's elite cyber warriors launch a retaliatory strike to reclaim their digital sovereignty. The orbital link is severed. For a moment, the command center loses its eye in the sky, plunged into total darkness. The blackout is partial, but the message is clear. The shadow front now controls the flotilla over armor. The drones are inside. Bypassing the outer rings of defense, they penetrate the most sensitive airspaces in the world. Anti-air systems roar to life. They are tracking shadows, trying to lock onto targets that shouldn't be there. A silent explosion in the upper atmosphere. $1 million of technology turned into falling scrap metal. Ground teams take manual control. When the electronics fail, the human element becomes the ultimate backup. Heat is the one thing they cannot hide. Tracking systems switch to infrared to find the hidden invaders. The fog of war turns electronic. A localized jamming field is deployed, turning the battlefield into a sensory void. Control is slipping. The drone's own eyes are being hacked by the very target it was sent to observe. Mission aborted. The extraction protocol is initiated as the risk of total loss becomes too high to ignore.
This is the true heart of Tehran's resistance. A multi-layer fortress where the silent war is managed 24/7, an infrastructure of dominance. Every sector of the nation is represented here, integrated into a single tactical view. Coordination is the key. Simultaneous strikes across the digital and physical domains are planned with cold precision.
The machines are thinking. AI predicts the enemy's next move, suggesting countermeasures in the blink of an eye.
Deception is a weapon. 1,000 false ghosts are released into the network to lead the pursuers astray.
The hunter becomes the hunted. The enemy wastes their resources chasing shadows of shadows.
The war is also mental. Simulations predict how the fear of the invisible will break the enemy's resolve.
False orders, false hope. The very lines of communication are turned against those who rely on them.
The control hub is now fully operational. The shadow has become a wall, impenetrable and absolute.
Victory in the silent war. Dominance is not about land. It is about who controls the signal. The peak of chaos. The blackout is no longer local. It is regional, a void where communication used to live. The war reaches space. Satellites lose their grip on the Earth, spinning into the darkness of uncontrolled orbit. The sirens are the only sound. In the silence of the digital collapse, the physical world cries out in warning. A cluster of destruction. The skies over the border become a graveyard of high-tech debris. Total collapse. For 60 seconds, the region is completely dark, a digital zero point that changes everything. Reverting to the old ways. When the high-tech fails, the analog becomes the only way to survive the storm. And then, nothing. The peak of the war is not a bang, but a total, absolute silence. The reboot begins. From the ashes of the blackout, the system slowly starts to find its voice again. One by one, the connections return. The city breathes again, though the scars of the attack remain in the code. The cost of the war is calculated. Terabytes lost, systems fried, but the core infrastructure remains intact.
The sun rises on a new reality. The silent war has paused, but the front lines have been permanently moved. The immediate crisis has passed, and for the average citizen, the world looks exactly as it did before.
But beneath the calm, the defenses are being reinforced. The lessons of the Shadow War are being written into every new line of code.
The flood of data slows to a trickle. The emergency is over, but the surveillance never sleeps.
In this new era, peace is just a temporary state of synchronized signals. The war is never over. It only changes frequency.
As we look toward the future, remember that the most important battles are the ones you will never see on the news.
This was not a war you could see. It was a battle fought in silence.